Hi, I'm Mike Skrypnek, CEO and founder of Grow Get Give Coaching, and I want to welcome Tom Chatfield joining us today to basically cover what I started the video interview series for, and that is, how do you really live a Grow Get Give life? Like, my question to entrepreneurs and people I work with is how they find their Grow Get Give life and their approach to business, because it's so interesting to me. And I know there's wisdom in each step of the way. So, like I said, today's guest is Tom Chatfield. Tom, thank you so much for accepting this invitation, to share your story with other entrepreneur business owners. I'm going to let you explain a little bit about your business, how you serve your customers, and what you do. In your words, it's better than coming out of my mouth.
Well, thank you, Mike. Thank you for this opportunity. Well, I'm the CEO of a company called Camber Aviation Management. It's a very unique company. We're a team of 6 people, and what we do is we provide completion management services for clients that are seeking corporate jets. So we basically work at what we would call the upper end of the market, aircraft built by Canada's Bombardier or the American Gulfstream, but also with Airbus and Boeing. And we basically work with the client to design the interior and the exterior of an airplane of their choice. It basically involves taking an airplane, which we would call green, an empty airplane with just a green primer on the outside, and turning it into a bespoke, unique aircraft that represents that client's requirements, their desires, and their aesthetic taste. So it's quite a unique business that we're in. The projects take anywhere between a year to 3 years, and we've done airplanes from 12-seat globals to 80-seat 747s for heads of state. So it's a unique and very exciting business.
It's very unique, right? It's very unique. One thing I'll share with everybody is when I first met with you, Tom, or when we first met, you led the conversation with, I sell a product that no one in my market locally, in terms of geographically, I don't work here, and I don't sell a product that anyone in my market buys in my geographic area. But you supply and you provide an incredible service to people all around the world. Jay Leno was just doing the Cybertruck thing with Elon Musk, and I thought this was the coolest thing, because he said, well, what's it made of? And he said, steel. And it's reinforced steel, and it's bulletproof. And Jay Leno goes like, okay, is it really important? Why would anyone want a truck that's bulletproof? And I thought this was great. Elon Musk came back and said, it's because it's cool and it's badass. And Jay Leno thought that was the best way to describe, why you want a bulletproof truck. And when I think of what you do, it's cool and it's pretty badass. Like, it's really interesting work that you do in such a custom and elegant way. So I think it's great. Anyways, when you consider growing your business now, Tom, you've recently taken the reins as the CEO of the company. You've been involved for years and years in the industry, decades, and in this particular company, years and years. But for you, you've taken role as the CEO, so you've taken the reins. And I always talk to people about the key things that help them grow their business, get more freedom, and give back. And so I'm going to ask you some questions along that line. And growing your business really is all about connecting your message with your marketplace. Really, at the end of the day, if we don't connect, we don't make sales, right? And so what I'd like to know from you is, either in this new role, have you learned anything new in marketing, or what are some secrets or tips that you might share around that connection that you've learned along the way?
Well, I think the most unusual aspect of our business is that we do one-off airplanes. We essentially do what we like to call a prototype. It's got to be working exactly when we finish it, when we certify it and deliver it. And in order to do that, we work with a myriad of different people, from designers to people who actually buy and sell the aircraft manufacturers, a completion center that designs and engineers and puts it all together, and all kinds of suppliers that are building a one-off lamp or a one-off couch that's going to go in this aircraft that we can actually certify. So we have this incredible service, but we have two big challenges. One is many people don't know that that a company actually does completion management. So you have wealthy individuals or heads of state that require an airplane for their own reasons and don't know that there is someone like us around to actually do that work. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, because we're obviously bound on very tight NDAs, we can't tell you who our customers are, and we can't show you pictures of the interiors of their aircraft or even tell you very much about it. So I think the best analogy we have is, we're the world's greatest baker. We've got this cake, it's inside a cardboard box. We want to sell it to you, but you can't taste it and you can't see it until you've bought it. And that's basically how we're sort of challenged with the marketing. So how do we market? Well, we do it indirectly. And that means basically we obviously have a very good repertoire with numerous people around the world who either operate the aircraft or are linked in with an owner of an aircraft or work with a head of state. We basically try to make those people aware of the services that we do, and through example, give them advice on how to do this kind of work, and hope that it generates goodwill and generates a requirement for us. But we cannot directly market to these people, so what we have to do is make people aware that we're actually the professionals. I am involved sometimes in interviews, writing articles, posting some of the work that we do as concepts so that people have an understanding and a feeling of the kind of work that we do. And very, very importantly, we try to bring our partners into the discussion right from the very beginning to show that we're not just a small team of people that can do this work, but that we have these incredible partnerships around the world to make these incredible bespoke aircraft.
It's really interesting dealing with the high net worth or ultra high net worth buyer, consumer. You're right. Access is it's a very difficult thing. You can't just walk into their life and offer them a plane, or any kind of work that you do. And like you said, it's when people do these things, they don't often want you to share the finished work because it's their private sanctum, if you will, in the air. Now, I think that creates a really interesting opportunity for someone like you to share with people how you make that connection. So tell me a little bit about how you believe that your customer ultimately comes to the conclusion that they need to work with someone like you. It's probably credibility, it's probably, years in the business, but there's more to it, isn't there? Like, people don't make a decision about customizing their jet based on your technical profile.
No, and if you were to compare it to luxury vehicles, you always see reality TV shows where you have a wealthy individual who wants to get their supercar all modified and looking really good. That's great because you can actually see it in the media and you can get a feel for it, and I'm sure that generates follow-on business. We can't do that. We can't take a camera crew and say, hey, we're going to go visit the airplane today. What we have to do is, as we said previously, connections, knowing people within the industry, building a good rapport, being seen as a professional, and having simply an incredibly high set of ethics in terms of doing this business. It's far too easy with the kinds of monies that are involved with modifying and buying and selling aircraft, that the people involved within it could be prone to that kind of thing. And we have to be very, very clear that we're very ethical from the very beginning, and that that the only person that we respond to, or I shouldn't say respond to, that we represent is the client. And so we represent the client's best interest from the very beginning to the end to make sure that he or she gets exactly what they want to get.
It's part of a strategic and trusted advisor role, really.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to be seen as a trustworthy person who can give the advice that you just can't find on the street or nowadays on the internet.
So let me ask you, so interesting when we think about the market, life's changed a lot in the last few months. And in terms of the awareness, I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic, but the awareness of those type of factors combined with let's say the extreme discomfort of typical travel by plane, tell me a little bit about your thoughts on the marketplace in terms of being in the industry where you are positioned, as well as what the buyer's considerations are right now as it pertains to, corporate jet and private air travel.
Well, I think there was a really interesting statistic that I read last week, and it had to do with commercial aviation last year. And they said in the United States, there's approximately 6,000 airports, public airports that you can land an airplane at. And 95% of commercial air traffic travels to less than 300 of those airports. So that sort of gives you an idea of the numbers. And then you take a look at it and say, okay, if I have a private jet, I actually can go to all 6,000 of those, or very close to them, depending on the performance of your aircraft, of course. So nowadays, when we're taking a look at it from the new, well, the new way that we look at things from a pandemic point of view, very few people want to get on a commercial aircraft and sit very close to someone. So we're seeing all kinds of solutions that the airlines have been looking at. One of them is an empty middle seat in economy class. Another one is basically a plexiglass dome around you. Obviously nowadays, hand wipes, masks, everything else. And it doesn't seem to be very few airlines that are even offering a meal service on board anymore because nobody wants to get involved with the potential risk of that. So what is a logical alternative? Well, if you have the money, it's private jet travel. So if you take a look at the charter market right now, it had a huge hit, obviously. It's starting to come back slowly. And the feeling, the general consensus within the industry is that private individuals, corporations, heads of state are going to be traveling more and more on private aircraft. First question is why? Well, first of all, it's safer, it's lower risk, and you are actually traveling for a shorter period of time simply because you can go to more airports and you have greater choice. You don't have to land and take an Uber necessarily somewhere. So those are very positive aspects. And the perception now is if I have the money, I would prefer to sit further away from the person that would normally be right beside me in economy or even in business class. Now we have the opportunity to say, okay, maybe we can travel together as a team or as a family within an aircraft and actually control that whole environment. The airplanes are cleaned in a slightly different way. They're cleaned before every flight, they're cleaned after every flight, and you can control the environment of the flight crew. So there's some very, very positive things going on there. Is that going to lead to more corporate jet sales? Possibly in the long term, but I think what it does is it creates two strong opportunities. One is an increasing demand on charter, and the possibility of persons who may not want to buy an aircraft at the full new price and the long waiting time for it to get a used aircraft. And that's something that we do also, where we assist that person in getting the aircraft, but more importantly, doing the interior for them to make it fresh. So an airplane that's 10 years old has got very little life that's been used on it. Fresh interior, new paint, clean it all up, make it look nice, and it's 30–40% of the price of a new one, and you can get it much faster. So I think that's where the business is going to start going very quickly, both for private and very strongly, I think, for corporates, because think about it, if you were a sales team or a C-level team that now has to go to an important meeting to close a deal, you want to travel there as safely as you can and come back as quickly as you can.
No question. That was excellent. Thank you very much, Tom. Definitely, you know, there's part, it wasn't planned to get into that, but, you know, maybe I can ask you one more thing, because I really find it amazing, this bespoke approach and how elegant, yet, you know, when you started to talk about used and refurbishing, if you will, if you want to use that term,
Yeah.
how amazing they look. Like you just launched a major initiative. Maybe you can tell us just quickly about that initiative, and then we'll move on to some other stuff. But I really thought, you know, you just sparked it. Like, I think what you're doing is absolutely amazing. So maybe share a little bit about this recent initiative you just launched.
Yeah, so Camber Aviation has been working with 4 partners for the last 2 years on developing a new corporate jet concept. And basically what we did is we took the Bombardier C series, which is now called the Airbus A220. It's the newest narrow body in the world, fantastic technology, very fuel efficient engines, a flight deck that is second to none right now. And we basically used that as the beginning of developing a concept. It's the size of a Boeing 737 or a Airbus A319 in terms of floor space. And we designed an interior which, after speaking to many of our former clients and to potential future clients, we figured they would want this kind of aircraft. It's based on a modular concept. There's 7 zones in the airplane. There's a nice entrance in the front. There's a mid-cabin VIP lavatory, and the back end is for the owner. Is a suite with a master bedroom and a beautiful washroom. And in between, there's the possibility to make a dining room, a private office, a media room with a 75-inch screen and a kick-ass sound system, or a children's bedroom, or whatever you want in this. So we've developed it from a modular concept. And I think that, especially at this time in the pandemic right now, people wanted to have some good news. So we gave the people this concept and let them look at it. There's a fly-through video to see. And from the response, both from industry and outside the industry, has been incredibly positive. So it shows that when you work together with a bunch of partners that are really clever, you can do some quite interesting things.
Yeah, it's absolutely breathtaking. That fly through is just amazing. So let's shift gears again. So thanks, Tom, for sharing that, because I think that's really helpful. It's just an exciting initiative you have going. We become entrepreneurs, business owners, ideally to get freedom. And now we all know that sometimes feels like it's elusive. Often when you're early in the process, it feels like there is just no time and no freedom. And then as a result of success, we tend to find ourselves running out of time and freedom and have to deal with it. So let me ask you, what kind of strategies or ideas have you put in place in your life or in your business to give you more freedom, if it's buy more time or give you an opportunity to become more creative? What is that? What can you share with others that you've used that works for you?
Well, I think the first thing you have to do, in my opinion, is you have to be passionate about what you do. If you're not passionate and you don't have an affinity to the kind of work that you do and you enjoy it, then it's going to be a really difficult thing for you to become successful. So passion is the first thing. The second is you're going to have to be persistent. It's going to be long hours at the beginning. It's going to be long hours in the middle. And most likely near the end, it's going to be long hours. But there's periods of time in between it. So I think what you have to do is try very much to structure your day, structure time for work, time for you to think, time for you to do exercise, and time to let your mind run. And at the same time, very, very important, time for your hobbies, time for your family. If you don't balance that, it's just not going to work properly. And then surround yourself with a good team. And I think that the word team is overused. And I think that we have the opportunity within, or the actual fact within Camber that all of us that work together are very good friends. We can speak very openly to each other without feeling that someone stepped on each other's toes. We can say, listen, I feel a little bit overwhelmed right now. Can you take care of this? And we do that. So we help each other. We have a very clear lines of communication, and we really feel that we're part of a team. I may have the title CEO, but that's a piece of paper somewhere. What it really means to us is we're a homogenous group that thinks very well and reacts very well with each other. And we can rely on each other to get that airplane done on time, on budget. And I can't undervalue the value of a team. It's an incredible thing to have. So what is it? It's persistence, passion, put really good people around you.
Yeah, so what I heard as well is time blocking, right? Being very stringent about that and making sure that the time also includes things that aren't traditionally business or work time. And then people, right? People are, key to that and those relationships. And every time I speak with a leader of any organization that has any kind of modicum of success, I continue to hear the same message. You just said it is you provide the people you work with, not work for you, work with you, a level of autonomy in decision making and communication. And I think that is really an important piece of that. Is that what you found?
Absolutely. And I think what's the epitome of that is you've got to have trust. You've got to trust your people. If you don't have people in the right positions working together with you, get rid of that person. Even if you've got to work more hours, you've got to have that trust right from the beginning.
Yeah, that's excellent. Okay, Tom. So now, as well as most people who are part of this Grow, Get, Give coaching family, is that most people gravitate a little bit towards what I do and what we do as a community because they share an impact mindset. And, I've met you, you're a thoughtful, mindful human being, and you have also an impact mindset. And so I always want to get to the give a little bit. And so when I speak about giving, I used to focus on philanthropy. I used to really, it was about your charitable work, but giving always goes deeper than that. It's about how you give back to yourself, your family, your community, and then maybe philanthropic interests as well. So maybe share some ways that you have a big impact, how you give back.
Well, Mike, I think there's a bunch of different ways that you can do it. Part of it is philanthropic, sorry, terrible word. And the other part is really giving part of you to try to move something that you're passionate about in the right direction. So I have sort of two areas that I do. One has been I've been working with Coast Mountain Academy, which is a local school here, and the other one is Connection. So with Coast Mountain Academy, my son has been going to school there. In his 8th grade, I've taught a series of courses about aviation for the kids. So we talked a little bit about why an airplane flies. We talked about a little bit of history. Then we talked about aircraft design. Some of the kids were pretty excited about that. And then we did something cool, which was we said, it's time to build paper airplanes. Next week, you come to the gym and we're going to have a competition for who can have an airplane that flies the furthest, stays up in the air the longest, or simply looks the coolest. At first, I thought, okay, the kids aren't going to get too excited about this. The next week, it was amazing. Every single kid had multiple airplanes. They'd obviously been working like crazy on them. And we had an incredible event. But what came out of the event is we said, okay, the top third is going to be sitting in the left seat and getting their first pilot's lesson. And the other two are going to, in every group of 3, would sit in the back seat and do geocaching. And what we actually did is we worked together with the local flying school here, and we got the entire 8th grade class to go on 1-hour flights around Squamish. Part of it is geocaching, and the other one was the kids learning to fly and take off an airplane and land for the first time. Nobody got hurt. Nobody lost an eye. We found all the geocaching. The kids were super enthusiastic. And one of the spin-offs is one child canceled at short notice because they got sick. A grade 12 joined just to fill the spot, and he's now gone off to become a pilot. So obviously it's made an impact. And we've done similar things. We've taken the kids to Boeing to see how airplanes are built. We've had a couple of different lessons. That, I think, has made a positive impact. And the other thing that I try to do is make connections. When you travel quite a bit, you get to learn or meet many different people. And quite often you hear that someone has an incredible product and somebody else has a need. And you bring them together and you connect people. And I think that's a very positive thing to try to do. And I'm always grateful when someone does it to me.
Tom, that's amazing. So thanks for sharing that. I love your give. I love your community and, just this philosophy of giving that you have in terms of your connections and making your interactions more meaningful. So here's the last question. Well, maybe one of the last questions, but close to the last point I'm trying to get across for people. And if your business goals and personal goals are realized or along the way, what is the net effect to the world? In other words, do you have a big impact goal? And if you do, what is that?
Well, I think the impact that we have in the industry and the people we work with, there's, I have detractors, people who will say, you don't need an airplane that big, and you don't need to have that. It's ostentatious. Absolutely, not a question about it. Some of this stuff is quite over the top if you're not a very extremely wealthy person. But we also look at it another way, and we say there's a group of craftsmen, there's a group of engineers, there's a group of fabricators, there's people who actually make their living supporting aircraft like this, much like they do in the yachting industry. And these people are able to create things that are one-offs. They're pieces of art. There's some fantastic stuff, and you can find it when you go on YouTube and take a look around. But equally important, we push the boundaries on a lot of things that have a trickle-down effect that you actually see in commercial aircraft. So some of the in-flight entertainment things that you're seeing nowadays on aircraft are things that were developed in corporate aviation years ago. Some of the lightweight technologies that are being used, exactly the same thing. So I see there is a trickle-down effect, and sometimes a little bit tongue-in-cheek. I say, look, 400 years ago, they had artists that painted on the ceilings of chapels and churches. It was a religious thing. It was incredibly expensive at the time. The benefactor was the people and the church, and they did this incredible work. We have craftsmen now that are perhaps not painting the ceilings of aircraft, but they're building some incredible things there also for their patrons. So I think it creates some pretty interesting and exciting spin-offs for people and creates jobs.
I really love that you connected what would otherwise sometimes be an over-the-top or ostentatious type of luxury for some. Now, the ultra high net worth, and they have different needs. They have to travel in certain ways. They have time is of the essence, and protection and security. So, for some
Yeah.
people in the world, that this is a very much somewhat of a necessity. The elegance you bring to it is, I love the idea that you are allowing an opportunity to enhance craftsmanship at a really incredible level. So I agree. There's room in this world for art and artistic expression in quality and luxury that ultimately will have maybe even generational impact, because there's design features that really stand the test of time. So I think that's really, really interesting. So thank you. Tom, let's just step back and say, if someone's watching this and they're interested in what you do, getting to know you, or really want to investigate whether or not getting a private jet, a corporate jet completed by Camber, how that would work, maybe share with us how they'll find you.
Oh, it's quite simple. Well, we have a website, camberaviation.com. All the contact details are on there. And you can contact my coach, Mike. He knows exactly where I live.
Yes, you can. You can definitely contact me. And with Tom's approval, I will happily share the information. So again, thank you very much, Tom. I really appreciated your time. Thanks for sharing and giving some insight as to your business, because it's like you said, it's a highly unique business, and not a lot of people understand that industry. So I wanted to say thank you. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you for your time. Thanks, Mike.
My pleasure. So I'm Mike Skrypnek, CEO and founder of Grow Get Give Coaching. And if you want to find us, we can be found at www.growgetgive.com. Info at Mike Skrypnek. We're going to share all the information you need for this interview at the back end of it. And if you need to reach out to Tom, you can find him as well. We are going to continue to do these interviews to showcase our coaching family members and give them a platform to share with you their Grow Get Give secrets. And maybe you'll gain some wisdom. Maybe you'll just get some insight into some really cool industries or businesses, or maybe you'll just get to know some owners of businesses who are doing amazing things. So thanks very much. I'm Mike Skrypnek, and I will see you guys soon.